Hello everyone and welcome to the demonstration on DraftSight. So in next 30 minutes, we will see how simple and easy it is to create the production ready drawings with DraftSight. We will see what all the tools that are there within DraftSight that will help us to create those production ready drawings and how they can help us to reduce our time and effort. But before we do that, okay, I request all of you to stop whatever you are doing and pay attention. The CAD application that you see on my screen is a DraftSight Premium with the dark mode user interface. And I have took an example of a drive shaft for this demonstration. Now, this drive shaft I have created using a familiar tools that you might be quite aware of, like L for line, and then CI for circle, and then rect for rectangle. Now these familiar tools within the DraftSight have some extended option as well that will help me to create that geometry. For an example, if I would like to create a rectangle, and within that rectangle, if I right click, I will find few more extended option here that will help me to create the geometry. It will ask me to how you would like to create the geometry, whether you would like to create the rectangle with 3 corners or chamfers, or would like to have a parallelogram, and so on and so on. So by using this extended option, I can easily create the geometry and create my drawing. Okay. Now let's say I am an draftsman who would like to create a production ready drawing of this drive shaft so that I can guide uh, the craftsman on the shop floor so that he can produce the component without any problem. So let me start with adding some differentiating points. Like if I would like to differentiate the area of this particular component, I may need to add the hatches. And the hatch command within the DraftSight is quite familiar and classic that you might be quite aware. So it will help me to add the type of hatch, the pattern standard, and I can even scale the hatch and specify the boundary of the hatch. The preview of the hatch will let me know and understand how the hatches have been applied to that particular boundary, and it gives me an flexibility and to add those hatches. I also get some additional option where I can define the internal region, how those hatches should be placed on those regions, can define the layers and many more things. Now let's say once I have created the geometry or the component here, the drive shaft, the next thing is to pour as much information as much I can so that a craftsman understand the drawing very well and he can produce the component. Now within this drawing, for this drive shaft component, I have had a detailed view with abbreviation of beam. So I want to notify to a craftsman that he need to refer this particular view for an as a detail view. For that, I may add note stating that this is the view that he need to refer, and the note editor environment of DraftSight will help me to easily specify the details in here. So let's say these are the details that I want to furnish, like it is a detail view of B having a scale of 2:1. Okay. Now we can insert as much notes we can, but while inserting the notes, I may make a spelling mistake. that I had did in specifying the scale. The spelling check tool within the DraftSight helped me to identify the mistakes that I have done, and then I can correct those mistakes with the scale spell check tool. Right? Now let me go ahead and dimension this drive shaft with the auto dimension functionality. Now the auto dimension functionality within DraftSight helped me to automatically dimension this particular component. It will select the lines, polylines, circles, and arcs within that bounding box that we apply. So if you see on the very right hand side, you have a panel of auto dimension, which allow me to uh, uh, define the references. Let's say the horizontal dimension references line should be this vertical line. And then it allows me to place the schemes. So by default, I can have 3 schemes here of dimension, like baseline, continuous, and ordinate dimensions. Over and above, I can go ahead and then now select the lines that I would like to have in automatically dimension. So for the demo presentation, I will go ahead and select few lines in here. Like these are the that will help me to that I would like to auto dimension them and add those geometry. Okay. Then once those geometries have been added, I can select the scheme that I would like to apply for the demo presentation. Let's say I would like to have a continuous scheme for horizontal dimension, and then I would like to have a ordinate scheme for vertical dimension. And then I can select how I would like to place the dimension, whether I would like to place the dimension above the bounding box or below of the bounding box. Once done, I can have a preview and see if the dimension are placed as the way I want. I can then go ahead and apply those dimension. I can select the dimension that I don't need and delete them, and the rest of all dimension I can select and adjust them so that a craftsman can understand in a better way that those are the dimensions that he need to look after while creating those components. Okay. Now, while applying a dimension, it may be a situation where the dimension extension line can be look alike an entity. Okay, so to differentiate that entity, dimension extension lines with the entity, we may need to split it. So with the split tool, I can select the extension line and then apply a split to that dimension extension line. So the craftsman can easily understand that this is the extension line of a particular dimension and not an entity, right? Now moving ahead, I can add a smart dimension to a component or an entity. I can just select a entity and place the dimension the way I want. And now within DraftSight, you can place different type of dimension styles. You can bring in the template that if you have already created a template having a number of a dimension style, you can open them and start readily using them. So here in as an example, and to invoke the dimension style is the regular command dim style that I entered in command prompt, and here I have a number of dimension style with me. Now let's say if I want to differentiate between two or compare between the two dimension style, I can select the dimension style, say for an example 0, and would like to compare it with, let's say, 4. So the window pop-up or the dimension style will tell me the difference between those two style, and that will help me to easily identify which of the style that I need to apply further in the drawing. Now here is the fillet added. Let me go ahead and make use of dimension style number 4 and apply a smart dimension to this particular radius. So once I select a radius or the fillet added there, the smart tool will give me the quadrant to place those dimension. I can easily select the quadrant and place the dimension. And as soon as I select a, a tip of that particular dimension, I'll get a pop-up of a contextual menu. This is called the dimension palette. And this dimension palette is a pretty handy tool, and it will help me to add further more information to that particular dimension. Like, so this particular dimension is 2 times. So here is the one fillet of radius 2 and the other one lies here. Okay, I will give more details on dimension palette. We will see in the further information in few minutes. Okay, but then let's say I want to specify to a craftsman that this line has a meaning, and he would like to go into in notes and see what that this particular line signifies. So I can go ahead and add a leader and define the note width that would like to have, and if you would like to open an editor, okay, I can type in C note number 1 and arrange it in a readable fashion. So whenever a craftsman would like to refer a drawing, he can see the information here and go into the note number and add the operation accordingly. Now this particular stripe shaft has a groove, and this groove have been chamfered, and I would like to furnish those information by adding some arrows and multiple leaders. So I can easily do that within DraftSight. I can just select the leader and say this is 2 by 45 degree, and for the degree I can cite %d, and it is typical at 6 places. That's how that's how I easily can add the notes in here. And if I would like to represent it with point it out to another chamfer, I can add one more leader easily to that particular information. So isn't that great? Right. So moving ahead, I can then let's say I would like to apply a dimensions to this particular section with a, let's say, with the dimension style number 6, and I would like to apply a regular linear dimension. I can go ahead, select the point from which I would like to apply the dimension and place the dimension. And the dimension palette, again, I can make use of it to add further more information. Like it's a dia of 89 having a deviation of 0.00 to 0.02 with the tolerance of H6. Now the dimension palettes allow me to apply the tolerances. I can place the symmetrical tolerances, limit, and basic tolerances with the precisions. Okay, I can also add the precision to the to that particular dimension. Right now, I have created few dimensions, and then I would like to let know the craftsman that he need to refer those dimension from a particular plane. Okay, and for that I may need to add datums. Okay, so how can I create those datums? So here is an example datum C that is there in the drawing. So I can go ahead and let's say I have a block with the name datum been already created. So I can select that block and insert this. Let's say I will select SW datum AG underscore 0 for demo presentation. Okay, now this is the block that I have created, and then I would like to make use of this block in several times. I need to have this block as as a datum, as a reference as a datum A, as a reference as datum B, and also as a reference datum C. Sorry. So I can automate this block and define attributes with the block editor environment of DraftSight. So in short, I'm trying to create a custom block so that will, avoid my repetitive task. So I'll delete this B abbreviation and define an attribute here with the name. Say this is my datum name with the name datum, and the default value might be X. I need to have the text justification at the middle center. We'll click OK and place this. All right. Now the block editor environment is the block authoring tool that will allow me to automate this block. Let's say for an example, I would like to change the base point and have the base point of the block at the middle of this triangle here down. And I want to align this datum perpendicular to the any line that I select. So for that matter, if I select a horizontal line, it will align perpendicular to the horizontal line, and if I select a vertical line, it should align perpendicular to that vertical line. So once I have automated and customize it the way I want, I can go ahead and test this block. Let's say this is the block, and I can have a rectangle here created, and I can then select this block and see if it is behaving the way I wanted. Right. So yes, it is behaving the way I wanted. So I have tested the block in test environment and then close this test environment. I can furthermore go ahead and do a lot of stuffs in block editor environment. I can add a view representations of particular block or visibility state that we called in DraftSight. Okay, we can add the geometrical constraint to that particular block. Okay, and customize it. Basically, what I'm doing is creating a dynamic block, which is again called as a custom block of within DraftSight. So here is the block that I have created and saved it. So now let's call that block and place it over the specific area that I need. So to insert the block, I'll click on the insert block and select the block that I created, and then it will function in the way that I assigned it. So let's say I want to place it on this dimensional extension line with, let's say this is the datum number B. All right, and then I can click on space bar that will revoke insert block command, and then I can go ahead and let's say this is my datum number A. So DraftSight block editor environment help me to automate the blocks and customize the blocks the way I want. It's really easy and handy tool that will help me to go ahead and automate my task. Let's say I would like to add few more dimensions here, and the dimension style that I want to use here is, let's say 24, and the dimension, let me select the dimension that I would like to apply here, and in dimension palette I'll see this is the diametrical dimension. All right, with the tolerances of H7. All right. Now, I would like to also tell Craftsman that I would like to have a geometrical tolerances to this particular rod here. So I can go ahead and select geometrical tolerances, and within that geometrical tolerances, I would like to have a concentric symbol having a tolerance of dia 0.0.0.04, and the datum identifier maybe B. I can place the geometrical tolerances as you see here, right? Furthermore, I can go ahead and make use of this dimension palette to add few more information to this particular section of the drawing. And for that, let me go ahead and make use of um, style number 11, which will give me the symmetrical tolerances for that particular dimension. I'll select the dimension and say this is 122 plus or minus 0.5 of PCD. All right. So I can also add information below the dimension extension line. So whatever the extension notes that I would like to add, I can make use of this dimension palette over there. All right. Now, once let's say I have done with the applying dimensions to a particular drawing, I can make use of toolbox to add additional information. Now, DraftSight comes with the toolbox, and this toolbox contains more than 7,000 standard component library of nut, bolts, and washers. Okay, it includes the standard like ANSI, inches, metric, BSI, DIN, ISO, and JSI. So using this one of this basic standard, I can create my own company standard here, and I can go ahead and edit this company standard. All right. So I can streamline this library. Let's say I have the standard holes like counter bore, countersink, tap holes in here. I can go ahead and select basically the rows and add the rows and delete the rows as per my need. And if there are any other standard that I would like to include in this particular library, I can go ahead and make those changes in this particular library. So this library includes holes, and then there are hardwares like bolts, nuts, and washers, which I can go ahead and customize the way I want. Now within this toolbox, I have an options to select if I want to have a specific standard all throughout, or I just don't need to have any active standard. Let's say I don't want to have an active standard in this for the demo presentation. All right. Let's go ahead and apply a screw connection assembly. And to add the screw connection assembly, I can select the standard. It by default is my company standard. The type of the bolt that you would like to place, the size of the bolt, what I would like to have, the thread display of the bolted connection assembly, whether it is a simplified, schematic, detailed view, or is a profile. I can choose the way I want to display the thread. What kind of fastener length I'm looking at, whether it is by default 35 or any other length, I can place it. Now material thickness is the difference between the two lines over here. I can measure them and specify the material thickness here. The other options, like if you would like to place a washer on head side, you can tick that and it will add the type of a washer you would like to place with the size. You can also specify the nut, what kind of a nut side you would like to place along with washer, the size of the washer along the nut side, and the size of the nut. Okay, and then the style of the nut, whether it is a bearing or a chamfer nut. And then this whole diagram here is self-explanatory. If you would like to have the hidden view of this particular assembly, you can select display hidden part. And then if you would like to create the block, you can select the create as a block. Go ahead and then select the points where I would like to place this screw connection assembly. Right now, let's say at this section of the point, at very first end of this section, I have a hole drilled, and that hole is a tap hole, and that I would like to communicate with the craftsman that this is the hole with a particular it is a tap hole of particular size. So I can select insert a hole, and there are different type of hole I can insert. Standard holes I can insert within the drawing. Now for the demo presentation, I would like to insert a tap hole with the standard of ANS metric. The type of the hole is tapped hole, and the size of that particular hole is like M12. I can define the name, the creation method, whether it is near side or a far side, or whether it is a hidden or section. I can define those properties in here, and then I can save it as a template for my future use. But for now, for demo presentation, let me go ahead and select M8 and place this hole at 0 degree. Now I can call out the details of this hole by selecting the hole and placing the start point where I would like to place the call out. So it says it is dia 6.8, depth 20, M8 hole. This hole size is of M8 with the tapping. All right. Now there are some finish processes or special finishing processes that I need to apply on this drive shaft. Like for an example, I would like to add a surface finish to this particular section of drive shaft, and I would like to furnish an information so that a craftsman can have a better understanding that there is a surface finish operation that we need to perform there. And to impose that, I have a surface finish symbol, okay, with the style, okay, what kind of a surface finish operation we are performing, whether it is a basic surface finish or a machining is required for that surface finish and stuff like that. Let's say I would like to apply a machining, and then how is the lay direction of that machining. Okay, so it is a drive shaft, it's a circular drive shaft, so I will select lay direction maybe of circular. I can go ahead and select the minimum roughness that should be have. And once I have done with the surface finish details, I can then go ahead and place the surface roughness, surface finish symbol. I can also go ahead and say I would like to have a machining surface finish with machining required, and I would like to have it done here, and I would also like it to have it done here. There is the other operation that I need to add information of, that is of welding. Let's say I want to join two components and I have already furnished the weld beads here, and I want to add a welding symbol to those beads. I can do that with the help of welding symbol here. So it basically helped me to select the arrow side or type of a weld that I am applying to. So what kind of an weld I need to apply, whether it is a groove weld or a double V groove weld or a J groove weld, or what kind of a weld I would like to apply. Say I would like to apply a fillet weld. Once a weld is applied, what you would like to do, whether you would like to grind it, machine it, roll it, hammer it, what you would like to do. I'll say I would like to machine it. All right. Then machine it how? Whether you would like to machine it to concave, convex, or you would like to flash it. Okay, say I would like to have it flush it. Okay, that's a planar. Then the length of the weld and the pitch and type of welding that we would like to perform. So there are certain abbreviation, by default abbreviation, like AW is for arc welding, then arc spray welding, then air carbon arc cutting welding, and so on and so on. I can use those abbreviation here and apply a symbol this point. So pretty easy and simple to furnish the information so that a craftsman can go ahead and create the component on a shop floor pretty easily. All right. Once I have furnished all the information that is necessary for the craftsman, then the next thing comes of inserting the frames. So if I have my company's standard template, okay, I can invoke them via DraftSight frame command. So that will help me to select my company standard, and I can then select the frame that I would like to have, and then the title block that I would like to insert. I can use the default scale and then specify a scale at what scale I would like to have those templates, and then click OK. Now this title block, I can add the attributes to this title block, and that's what the example I have created for the demo presentation. I can specify what will be the drawing number, and then the section number of if there is any section number, the scale of say 1:1, and the drawing name is drive shaft. That's how I can furbish this information within the drawing. Now, many a times what happens is when I insert the template, I tend to insert the symbol of my company logo here, right? And what happen is many a times I attach it as a reference image. And when I share this drawing with any of the stakeholder, the reference go missing, and that may cause the problem, right? So if I have a solution for you, like I can go ahead and say insert a image in a drawing. For that, let's say I can go ahead and select the logo that I would like to insert. Let's say this is DraftSight company logo that I would like to have within this template. I'll place it and I'll scale it up. All right. And then within DraftSight, we have power tools like image tracer that will help me to convert those raster images into vector quantities. Okay, so I can go ahead and select this particular image, and then it will convert this raster image into a vector quantity. And I will insert that from one of okay, so I can go ahead and say import and hide this floating control, and then go into attach and say images and select the DraftSight image and place it here. And then I can go ahead into Power Tools and Image Tracer and select the images. It will then convert these logos into a vector quantity. I can select this logos, okay, as an and a vector quantity, and I can select this reference and say I'll not needed it now. I can cut this and bring it in DraftShaft and place it somewhere here. But the size of here, it is quite slow. I can scale it up, but that's how you do it. You can insert the logo within the drawing. Okay, that's how I create the drawing. Now let's say if you have a if you are quite associated with a design engineer, and design engineer is working on a 3D CAD model, okay, and he shares a 3D CAD model, then you can import that 3D CAD model into a SAT format and then open that model into DraftSight 3D CAD model, okay, by importing as an a SAT format and then placing the views as an flat view, and then you can use it for your further process. Okay, you can then make use of it and create 3D 2D drawing out of it. That is really one really fantastic tool within DraftSight that will help me to create a flat view. Let's say this is the top view of particular 3D view. I can go ahead in 3D modeling environment and then select, make it a flat snapshot. Okay, I can go ahead and insert as a block, or I can export this file to, let's say, I'll place it somewhere in E drive a demo, and with the name I'll say sheet metal component. All right, I can then go ahead and open that file which is in E drive demo and sheet metal component. So this will give me a snapshot of the top view. I can further go ahead and then modify these lines to be hidden and add those layers and work upon it. Simple as that. All right, so this was the stuff from my side. Let me summarize what we have covered in this presentation. Well, in this presentation, we had seen the extended option with which we can create a geometries and the component drawings. Those extended options are pretty cool. You can use them and create the geometries as the way you want. The auto dimension functionality, smart dimension and dimension palettes indeed will help you out to furnish the information the way you want. The dimension palette, very handy tool to apply the few add more information to the dimensions. So yeah, and then there is the custom blocks, which we generally called as the dimension blocks, but in DraftSight we call this as custom blocks. Those can help you to automate your task and reduce a lot of your time. Okay, We also saw how we can easily add nodes and GD&Ts to make more communicable, so craftsman can easily understand what he need to create. Okay, we also saw the toolbox that is there in DraftSight, with which you can use many standard components like bolt, nuts, pins, washers, holes. You can also create your own frames and title blocks and add into the drawing. Those title blocks and frames can be placed in model space as well as in the sheet or paper layout. Okay, and last but not the least, you can import 3D CAD model with the SAT format and can use those 3D CAD model for your further use, okay, for further purpose. So that was from my side.